Steve, on that, what you were saying about
Fair
Champions League, quick, you were
Yeah.
saying you don't mind getting the Europa League, but do you not think that you getting Europa League could make it easier for a team to maybe get Isaac, get Bruno Guimaraes from you, man? Because like that's another thing you guys have to think about. These guys are, you've got a few players in your team that are top level, right? At the moment. So if you ain't in the Champions League, these guys are gonna want the Champions League, right? And you're not there yet as a team that can then guarantee next year. You know, like if Man City just don't get Champions League this year, for example,
Right.
people are still going to go there or stay there because they're like, listen, more chance, more or less the next season, they're going to be back in the Champions League. Whereas like Isaac and Bruno Guimaraes, if you don't get Champions League again this year after being like one of the favourites now, I'd argue, going into the last game to get a Champions League spot, they might go, oh, when are we getting back in the Champions League here? And if a big team come in for them, that might now turn their heads. Whereas if you've got the Champions League, I think you've got a much bigger chance of keeping Isaac or Bruno Guimaraes.
Yeah, of course, we'd have a better chance. But there is still a scenario where we get Champions League and Isaac is sold and Bruno is sold. So it might not matter like that.
Yeah,
I get the logic behind it. But like, there's a world out there where we qualify for Europa
Can I ask you this
League.
question though? This is what I'd ask you to think. I know that trophies are important, and Mike here says revenue doesn't mean trophies. Okay,
And I'm not saying we'd win Europa, by the way.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, revenues don't equal trophies. Most of the teams around the world in the last 25 years that win most of the trophies are the rich clubs. So again, the idea that revenue doesn't win you trophies, fair enough if you're a club whose owners pocket the money. But there is no way that Newcastle's owners are pocketing that money. It's not happening. They're going to try and make the team better. So, Mike, you're wrong. This is the question I'd throw at you for logic.
Okay.
When you were in the championship, and you did you win it? You won the championship, right?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah. Would you have rather gone, I don't want the promotion because next year we won't win the Premier League, and I'd rather stay in the championship because we can win it again and win another trophy?
No, absolutely not.
That's how I view being in the Europa League. If you've got a chance,
then that's a difference of perspective because I don't look down on. I'm not saying Europa and champs and conferences is equivalent. It's obviously a drop in prestige and level, but
bro, the 16th and the 17 teams are in the finals.
What's happened a lot this year is again, I've seen Arsenal fans do this, and it's an Arsenal show, so we can bring up Arsenal. This idea that they'd rather be in the Europa League. And by the way, I think if Arsenal were in the Europa League this year, there's a massive chance they win it when you look at the two finalists are. If Arsenal were in the Conference League this year, they're in that final more than likely. If they were in it instead of Chelsea, they'd more unlikely be in the final. But I just would prefer to be and have a chance of winning the Champions League than almost a guarantee of winning the lesser trophies. You know, I'd rather my team be in the Premier League with the outside chance of winning it. But by the way, next season, even Newcastle in the Champions League, you're still probably going to be 10-1, 25-1, 30-1. There's still it's massive odds against you to win the Premier League, but you still want to be in it. You still want to fight because you know what it is. You want to be as high as possible. You want to be competing at the best level. You want to be getting the revenue that comes with it to pump back into your team. I do get that trophies are important, but I think football fans have gone a little bit too far with I'd rather never be in the Champions League because I don't think I'll win it. I'd rather be in the smaller cups that I know we'll win, so we win more trophies. The problem is,
I'm just saying, as the
you win five conference leagues on the bounce, and then Sunderland, I'm making it up, managed to get back in the Prem, get in the Champions League, and then win the Champions League. That one Champions League will count for far more than 5 conference leagues. You know what I'm saying?
Terry.
You got to aim for that big one. I think.
Terry, every Arsenal fan that said that is a fucking liar. Yeah, they're a liar and they're an agenda merchant. Yeah, because I don't care. No Arsenal fan can come to me, and act like they generally would rather be in the Europa League than the Champions League next season. Because if we had dropped out of the Champions League slots, what would they have said to us? What would they have been saying about our campaign? How we've fallen, how the hell are we not in Champions League again? It's just all lies. Everyone that said they'd rather be in the Europa League.
This is the thing. So Andrew says it. Sorry, he says football's about trophies, not top 4. But it's not about winning the top 4. It's about that putting you into one of the biggest cup competitions in the world to try and win it. Newcastle, forget. This is what you got to do, Andrew, right? Forget your perception of Arsenal. Because a lot of Arsenal fans don't think they're ever going to do enough to win it. That's fair. but not everybody is Arsenal. Not everybody's Arsenal. Newcastle's owners will do everything in their power to win every competition that they are in. And they will grow and they'll develop. And the more money they make, the more often they're in these competitions, the more likely they are to win it. Fair enough. A lot of people don't think that Arsenal or Tottenham would ever spend enough to try and actually win these trophies. Great. But not everybody are those clubs. The one thing I'm so tired of and upset about, really, that we start to treat football clubs like monoliths. If that's how you view one club, great. But you can't apply that logic to every other club. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's like I'm not going to employ someone. They were lazy. I ain't employing no one else ever again. Why? They might be lazy as well. It's just fucking stupid. Most people aren't. Honestly, it's mad.
I had a debate with Connor because I was saying the way I see football is like me and him was difference of an opinion. I said, if you give me a 50% chance to win Champions League next season or a 100% chance to win the Europa League, I'm picking the 50% chance of winning the Champions League. Connor said no, for example. Connor was saying he would rather 100% Europa League win over a 50% because he'd rather guarantee a win than not win. But I said that you've got to put the size of the trophy into it and what the accomplishment is of winning that. And you got to listen, if you're at the best of the best level doing it, you can never guarantee. No one ever goes into the Champions League guaranteeing a win in that competition, even the mighty Madrid.
I don't know where this logic's come from. No, maybe I'm talking as an old man. Maybe I'm shouting at clouds. I'm 40 years old. Until this last 2 months, I have never heard any logical sound of mind person say they would rather a guarantee of winning a smaller trophy than a good chance of winning the biggest one out there. That essentially then, that by that logic dictates Arsenal should relegate themselves to be in the championship because you're almost guaranteed to win the championship with your quality.
Are major honors, though.
But the championship is... I mean, it's still actually somewhere in the region of, I've read somewhere like it's the 8th or 9th most watched league in Europe as an example. The point is the Europa League is big and Europa League is important, but it's still the second tier of European football. For me, you should always want to be in the best tier of every competition possible. You should want to be at the World Cup, at the Euros, in the Prem, in La Liga, in the Bundesliga, in Serie A. You should want to be in the Champions League and striving to win it. The idea of I'd rather play at a lower level to guarantee winning than push myself at the highest level on a long-term basis, that doesn't make sense. That's not
if you ask,
sports is about trying to reach the pinnacle. You can't reach the pinnacle if you purposely demote yourself.
If you ask 100,000 Crystal Palace fan, would you rather play in Europa League next season because you have a chance of it? Or we're going to demote you to conference, you're going to have a bigger chance. I'm guaranteeing 100% of Crystal Palace to tell you all I played Europa League. Of course. It's our competition.
But this is the thing. They qualified for the Europa League not through a league. They won their club's first ever major honor.
Yeah, but they would still rather be in the second tier of European football than the third tier. And Joe, what I love about this conversation, it's happened organically. Terry, but the Europa League's massive, the Championship isn't. I hope you keep the same energy if Man United win it on Wednesday night, by the way.
By the way, Terry.
Don't you wankers?
By the way, Terry, on that.
It's Mickey Mouse. A week ago it was Mickey Mouse. Now it's massive.
Terry, on that as well, by the way, Newcastle, here's one for you. Newcastle beat us 3 times this season and we just beat them in the 4th. See, Spurs beat you 3 times this season, didn't they? So you got the 4th match. Come on, United.
Mate, I honestly, we're doing a preview today. We all sort of admitted to ourselves, like we're all just sitting there, like, we all just went, oh shit, ourselves, all 7 of us. It was good. It was good fun. It was good fun.
The other thing I would like to point out, though, is again, I think this conversation is more contextualized based on the club you're talking to. Like I said, no Bayern Munich fan's going to want to be in Europa League. No Real Madrid fans going to want to be in Europa League, Barcelona, whatever. For Newcastle United, again, we're not used to seeing European football for 15, 20 odd years. We've had 2 campaigns. I think progress in those lower tier competitions and getting to a semi or getting to semifinal is good prep work for when we get if we ever become a club that's regular UCL contender.
I do get you, but how many teams have done well? How regularly do teams do well in the Europa League for a couple of years and then go into the Champions League and also do really well?
Sevilla win it all the time.
To be fair,
the one example, giants. I think it's important. I think I know what you're saying, Steve, about prep work, but it doesn't work like that. What you've kind of created is a really kind of idealistic way that things work really nice and neatly. That if you do well in
Europa, I'm not saying anything. You
just said that Europa could be prep work for the Champions League. But it doesn't. Okay, but so are you sold on this idea? Is this like? Are you kind of is this like? Do you think this is the way forward or not? Like,
if we get Euro, all right. Well, then there's a whole other conversation where I thought Newcastle were going to finish in the league this year and what I thought we'd do versus now where we're at. I thought we'd finish 7th. So we're doing better than I thought we would. And on top of that, the trophy as well.
I always look at it this way. I'm going to go to Sard in just a second. Sard in a while. I look at it this way. Right now, you're currently the 3rd best team in England. Let's see where you end up. Typically, a team that can finish 3rd and push for 2nd in the Premier League has a chance of winning the Champions League. It's knockout football. The league phase has changed things. Look at Villa. Villa were one bad substitution away from potentially knocking out PSG. And I think you're better. I know they beat you recently, but I actually would say, on balance, I think you're a better team than Aston Villa. So a good summer, you can have a right good go in that competition.
Can I tell you something that Philip would not agree with? Right? Mm-hmm. If Newcastle, everyone, all the rivals and all the people, the neutrals, if Newcastle next season go and get a top manager that won the Champions League before, I think people will give Newcastle double the chance they'll give them with Eddie Howe. With this team, if they keep Isak, they keep Gordon, they sign 2-3 players, and they get a top manager. What I mean by like someone like Hansi Flick, I don't know who in the market. I'm not a scout, but they get someone from that pedigree, right?
Inzaghi.
And they, maybe. I'm being serious.
I'm being serious.
I agree with you.
Whatever, say Inzaghi leaves and then Newcastle went and got him, people's mind would change. Their mind would change.
Double the chance of winning the Champions League. They will tell them, oh, this Inzaghi guy can do something with the Isaks and these guys. And Livramentos and these people. But Philip, I know that Philip is smiling, and I know he doesn't agree with this, but that is reality. Eddie Howe might do it. I'm telling you, Eddie Howe might do it.
I'm going to speak for Phil here. It's not. I'm going to see if Phil agree. Phil doesn't agree, not because he doesn't understand what you're saying, but he thinks that Newcastle with a good sum with Eddie Howe got a chance of winning it. It's just that I think I agree with Phil that he has, but lots of people that don't think they can win it may have their minds change if an Inzaghi came in or a manager of that pedigree. I think. Sard, what do you want to say, bro? What do you want to say?
Yo, big up to everybody. I completely disagree with what Steve said. I think Newcastle have to remember, like, you lot ain't a small team that are like trying to. You lot are a massive club. You lot are like, your stadium capacity is, I think, exactly the same, or it must be just like a couple hundred less than Manchester City, and you got more stadium capacity than Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? You got a massive stadium. You are a big club based on your history and what you've won previously, obviously. But here's the thing for me. Yeah, I'm all for Newcastle not getting the Champions League, mate. I'm all for Newcastle not getting the Champions League, because guess what, mate? If they don't get the Champions League, Alexander Isak, I'm in there straight away. 120 million on the table. Ma salama, come to me, marhaba. Let's say salamu alaikum. Come join us, man. But if they do, which I think they will, then yeah, it is what it is. I think they'll be able to do good. I agree. I think they'll be able to do good in the league campaign. On today's game, I think we were actually pretty shit, to be honest. And had a moment of brilliance. I think we had a moment. The first half was completely dog shit. I mean, I don't know what that was, to be honest. We were all over the place, open, wide, just letting them do whatever they want. Second half, we definitely closed it up a bit. I do agree that Mikel Arteta closed some of those holes and didn't allow them as much space to get through us, like as if there was no midfielders there. But, we were still wasting away chances. But a moment of brilliance gives us the lead, and we're able to hold on to it, thank God. And we obviously get the win. I'm gassed that we're finally, like, Champions League is now confirmed, and I think second place is confirmed as well. And yeah, listen, I'm just happy to get to make sure that we're in Champions League, because I didn't want no bullshit happening on the last day where we're sitting there like, oh my god, we could actually lose Champions League here. We don't know, man. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal have a habit of faltering at times, so it's not always a given with us. Even though we're a different team at the moment, it's not always a given. But I'm happy that we're able to get this game over the line. And listen, for me, what we have to look for now is getting the signings in. We're already doing a lot of work in the transfer window, and I'm excited about it. But we need to get these over the line.